Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the March 12th meeting of the County Agricultural Preserve Advisory Committee meeting, and it's 9:01 a.m. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, good morning. We'll start with Sergio Ricardo,
Present.
Stephanie Stark,
Here.
David Lackey,
Here.
and Alex.
Here.
And then we have Royce Larson joining us online.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Now's the time for members of the public if they would like to have a public comment on any item that's not on today's agenda. I don't see anyone in person. Is there anyone online that would like to speak during general public comment?
We do not have anyone online, so we do not have any public comment.
Okay, great. So I'll close general public comment. And then as far as agenda status, we've got 4 continued items on our agenda today. Are there any requests for continuance of these items that we've received, or anybody online that's requesting continuance?
There is no changes to the agenda.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm not sure if this is the right time to just correct a minor typo on one of the parcels on the agenda.
Oh,
I
yes.
don't know if that's.
You want to do it when we get to that item?
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. I'll do that.
Sure. And so let's consider the minutes from our February 13th meeting that are in our packet and online. Any suggested edits or clarifications from members?
I don't have any.
I have none.
All right. Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, great. I have a motion. Do we have a second? A motion from second. Roll call, please.
Sergio Ricardo,
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey,
Aye.
Alex, and then Royce Larson,
Aye.
and then vote carries 5-0.
Okay, great. So let's jump into our continued items on our standard agenda. The first item is the contract 71 AP042, Frank Warnacros. And this was as part of other transactions, the resulting parcel, there was no longer common ownership, so the owner was needing to get and apply for their own replacement contract. I think maybe Angela, are you representing Mr. Warnacros?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, do you want to give us an update of progress in terms of getting a replacement contract application in?
Yes, of course. Thank you. As you just stated, this parcel was formally under contract with the one directly west of it, which on our map. By the way, special thanks to Teresa for being so patient and so helpful. Just wanted to say that up front. Was with lot 8, which is directly next to it, a 26.54 acre parcel. Teresa, if you're able to go to the site plan, possibly, would that close. Gosh, I gave you so many things. Maybe the 3, no, that's the agenda. Okay. It was the one that I sent you yesterday because we were waiting for some changes to it. There we go. Yep.
Was it this one?
Got it.
Okay.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. So you'll see directly west of it is lot 8. That was the plot that it was formally under contract with to comprise the minimum 40 acre requirement. These lots were transferred, actually they're owned by brothers. So I think you guys might remember me coming for this, in the fall for both Frank and Bill Warnacros. And so this obviously is the result of those ownership changes that this one lot got kicked out. because it's now owned by Frank Warnacros instead of William Warnacros. I know we had some confusion about that in the past. So this one by itself is owned by Frank. He actually owns lots 004 and 006, which you all approved in the fall, but obviously does not have, it's not contiguous touching those lots. And so it's our understanding that for this parcel to be eligible, it needs to have, be adjacent to other parcels that are within the program. Lot 7 and Lot 8 were just put together as a contract this fall. It's pending board action letter, I think is its status right now, getting ready for Board of Supervisors review. So that is the proximity. Itself, it's 26.12 acres. But when you put it in proximity to lots 7 and 8, which are going to be under one contract, all together, you get to 78.32 acres, which allows us to meet the 40-acre minimum requirement. You can see that the lot extends from central all the way up into kind of the river area. The entire lot is farmed except for the roads that cut through the center portion and the river area that cannot be farmed. It is under a long-term lease with Campbell Ranches. They do row crops, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, lettuce, cilantro, and celery. And very small, you can see that there is an existing well on site. Unfortunately, this parcel was created such a long time ago. There aren't any well completion report documents available. We encountered this issue on the other lots, so we're having to go to the Santa Ynez River Water Conservation District to secure well production reports, and that's in process right now. I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. And then in terms of the status with the application with P&D, I just looked in Acela and I didn't see it in Acela yet, but have you actually applied for
Yes,
the replacement contract?
It's submitted. They're waiting to clear me because of the well production reports.
Okay, great. And just, so we had this on here as a continuance just to kind of track the timing that the owner is following through with the replacement contract. And then, so we're not taking action today on, even though we appreciate all the information that you provided ahead of time, it's not agendized because the application hasn't been included from P&D yet. But
Of course.
hopefully that will be in our April meeting and we'll be able to address it at that time. But is there any general questions that committee members have for Ms. Janes?
I think it's pretty clear. The one thing I was going to suggest that maybe you were going to address this, Mr. Chair, is maybe what we want to do now is make a motion to cancel this item, since the agenda item is to review the ongoing eligibility and create a new item for a future agenda to actually review the do we want, I mean, or can we, the new contract, the
Right.
replacement contract?
Yeah, I think what we've done in the past is that we would continue this one more month and anticipate that P&D, whoever the planner is assigned, will then place as a new item consideration of the replacement contract. And at that time, once we take action on the new contract, we can then cancel this action at that meeting. But I think today we would make a motion just to continue it one more month for tracking purposes. But yeah, thank you for that. Stephanie or Royce, do you have any comments or thoughts?
Not at this time, thanks.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to ask Angie. I know there was a communication about the project, so I hope everything is taken care of as far as what needs to be done on our side, and planning should be forwarding us the legal description to review for the other contracts, including this one when it gets submitted. Is there anything else that we need to know for the surveyor's office?
Nothing that they've made me aware of. Again, I think we're just waiting on these well production reports, which hopefully I'll get within the next week or so. That will clear me through to, getting into the queue and getting a formal, some formal response. But I haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we started using Excel for project management as well. So there's always these little glitches.
Learning curve.
Of course.
So just call us or email us if there is anything that needs to be clarified. Thank you.
I will. Thank you.
And Teresa, are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this item?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, great. So I would make a motion that we continue this item to our April meeting and to provide time for the placement contract application to be completed and agendized for consideration.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
Stephanie Stark.
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
And then Royce Larson.
Aye.
And then vote carries 5-0.
Okay, great. So I
Thank
think
you.
we're gonna be back to you again on this one, Angela. Let me read it into the agenda. So item number 2 is contract 69 AP 040A, Lara Jean Schuler. Again, this is in the same area. And a similar situation as our previous item. As a result of an ownership change, there was a need for this parcel to apply for and be eligible for its own agriculture preserve contract. Assessor's parcel 093-070-008, I believe, and that's 97.59 acres. And kind of the similar question, Angela, in terms of the status of applying for a replacement contract for this property.
Yes, actually, this one is slightly ahead because we had more information available. So it's been submitted and it's under review.
Okay, great. So again, we probably can anticipate that it'll likely be on our April agenda for consideration. Any questions from committee members on this one?
Getting back to the typo that
right.
needs to be corrected is on parcel, the agenda calls parcel 93 or 093-070-007 as one of the original parcels. That has a typo. It should be 093-040-007.
Great, yeah, thank you for
Correct.
catching that. So we'll address that when we agendize it for continuation. Any members of the public that would like to speak on this item?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, great. So I would also make a motion that we continue this item to our April meeting. Right opportunity for the new application to be agendized for consideration.
Second.
And then we'll do roll call. Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
Stephanie Stark.
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
And then Royce Larson.
Aye.
And then vote carries 5-0.
All right, great, thank you. Well, we'll see you next month with both of these, hopefully, for consideration, Angela.
Yes, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So our next item is contract 70 AP 062. This property is owned by Chevron USA Inc. As you recall, it was part of a larger contract, similar situation where this parcel was sold off to Chevron and no longer under common ownership. So each of the resulting parties needed to get their own replacement contracts. The original owner went through the process and did receive their replacement contract. And we've been working with trying to contact Chevron USA to make them aware of the situation. multiple rounds of attempts. The most recent information, so Vice Chair had sent notice to appear and working with at least contacts that we received with Chevron USA. We sent notice to appear. Apparently, they were provided an incorrect zip code. But then when further communications with Chevron, since they didn't realize that it was a notice to appear, they gave us a different legal contact out of Sacramento. And so tomorrow, in tomorrow's mail, we'll be putting in a new a new notice to appear sent to this address in Sacramento, certified mail. Hopefully, that will result in a fruitful contact, and then we can engage with them and give them the information, and hopefully they will be available for when we continue this item.
And just for the record, for committee members to know that we did go through District 4 to make sure that we were contacting the right people at Chevron to begin with. So taking quite a while. We'll get there.
So I guess is there any members of the public would like to speak on this item, Teresa?
We do not have any public comment.
So with the timing of sending out the new notice to appear, I would recommend that we continue this to our May agenda. If that works for everyone else. Is there any other comments or questions that committee members have regarding this item?
No, I don't, Mr. Chair.
Horace, you're good? Okay. So I would make a motion that we continue this item to our May APAC meeting, to provide opportunity for the representatives to be contacted and be available for the May meeting.
I'll second.
The roll call, Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
And then Royce Larson,
Aye.
and then vote carries 5-0.
Okay, great. Well, we're moving through this agenda quickly, so we're on to our final item. And I know we have representatives of the property owners. So this is contract 84 AP013 Babcock Winery. This came to the committee's attention last fall when the owners had an application in for a special events permit. And as we do for all Ag Preserve contract properties, in addition to just reviewing that specific application, we look at ongoing eligibility of the property and the contract. And as part of that information, looking at area photos and reports from the assessor's office, it appeared that much of the existing vineyards that were on the property had been removed over the last several years. And so that the committee had requested that the chair send a notice to appear to the property owners to provide more information on what's the current situation. And because the grapes, as far as the uniform rules go, the wineries are considered a compatible use, but there's a relationship that you have to maintain a certain percentage of case production from grapes on the property. So we wanted to, and we reached out with a notice to appear letter, and then I also was able to get in contact with Mr. Babcock last week, and he graciously provided me some information and was going to be in attendance today, which he is. And so maybe I can invite whomever would like to provide some information initially, and you could probably start at the podium so we get you on the microphone for the meeting. And then I'll work to get an aerial photo here, but maybe you can provide us a little bit more context of the current situation with the vineyard removal and what your proposal is to move forward.
Morning.
Morning.
Thanks for having us. If I seem a little frazzled, I've been dealing with my wife and I. We have a tiny little property in Southern California. We just had a fire, and the property burned, unfortunately, almost to the ground. So with regard to the specific aspects of what we're looking at here in the details vis-a-vis the Williamson Act, I'm going to let my partner in our new regenerative farming program, I'm going to let Duke Richardson speak to that. But let me just give you some background. Our family has been living, working, farming, making wine in Santa Barbara County since 1978. I've had to rip, this is a tough business, especially now. I've had to rip my vineyard out twice. The first time was a disease called phylloxera, for which we did actually have a remedy, a very expensive remedy, because if you have to tear your vineyard out, that's never cheap. But at least we were able to come back and replant vines on rootstocks, which solved that problem. In light of that, I developed some vineyards because we really didn't know Santa Barbara County climate, soil, what they are, exactly how all these rootstocks would respond. So I planted some vineyards with no fewer than, I think it was a dozen different rootstocks, just so we could see, we could learn, which rootstocks would be the best. Spent 25 years collecting data, sharing that data with the industry, with my colleagues, anybody that wanted to listen. And at least the phylloxera thing was behind us. The second go around now is a more difficult nut to crack. It's called Pierce's disease. And it's very systemic in the vine. And we are in our proximity to the ocean, right in the middle of the Santa Rita Hills. So we're kind of in a zone where there is maximum pressure of Pierce's disease. The disease is caused by a bacteria spread by a winged insect called a sharpshooter. The bacteria, the sharpshooter, are indigenous, and Vitis vinifera is not indigenous. It probably evolved in Asia somewhere. So genetically just does not have a lot of resistance to that particular disease. So I have, at this point, committed my entire property to a regenerative farming laboratory. As far as Pierce's disease goes, we are working with a couple of scientists we're working with a number of different agencies to get the whole regenerative thing going. But with the Department of Agriculture, there's a couple of scientists that have identified some fungi that actually are taken up by the grapevines in a grapevine or plant in general. There's the vascular system, there's the xylem and the phloem. The bacteria, Pierce's disease, attacks the vine from within the xylem. And these guys at the Department of Agriculture have identified some species of fungi that are taken up by the vine. And first indications are that suggesting that these fungi will be antagonistic to Xylella fastidiosa, which is the bacteria of Pierce's disease. One of the things that's going to hopefully bring these fungi into my soil is a full-on, dedicated, holistic, regenerative approach to farming. I've been studying. I do have 1 acre of vineyard left that I call my laboratory, where if a vine dies in my laboratory, I just replant it, and I'll do that for 1 acre because of what I've been doing is studying. We have developed a new farming system we call integrated nature. That is a raised platform approach that will accommodate and enhance a regenerative approach, especially from the standpoint of allowing for livestock, because livestock is very much part of a regenerative approach, with the livestock becoming your irrigating and fertilizing agents, weed trimmers, et cetera. My system from the ground up will accommodate for livestock on the ground year round. And historically in the wine industry, that's been a challenge because most people start out low in vertical sheep positioning or more traditional farming in the area, fine wine growing. if your vines are in contact with the livestock at a point where the vines start to grow, then you got to get the livestock out. In a regenerative approach, you want to be able to move livestock in when that grazing zone, and if we're using a vineyard someday, hopefully, as pasture zones, you move the livestock in when it's ready, when that pasture zone is ready to be fed down, irrigated, fertilized, and then you move them out when it's done. You move them to the next pasture zone. It's kind of a round robin cycle, completely integrated system that hopefully will provide us with, if nothing else, just a healthier soil is going to lead to healthier vines and more resistance, hopefully, to everything. Pierce's disease, phylloxera, mildew. Mildew's crushing, especially where we are with our coastal climate, humidity in the atmosphere, et cetera. Mildew is a really big problem right now. Over the last 15 years, I have planted 1,000 oak trees. Didn't really have anything to do with the Williamson Act per se, but I did it because it was the right thing to do, because they're beautiful. They produce oxygen. And so we're actually, as part of our program, developing, what I think will ultimately be wildlife corridors, allowing some wildlife from the more open areas to come down, penetrate deeper into the property. But anyway, that's just so you understand the reason why I'm not producing 51% of my wine from my vineyard. Just kind of desperately trying to find a remedy, but with what we have in our plans and regenerative farming, grazing, pasture, et cetera, I'll let Duke. I'm kind of frazzled, so I'm gonna enjoy hearing what he has to say as much as you guys.
Minor tragedy. Everybody's okay, but it just happened last Saturday. Forgive us if we're not all fully prepared. And my presentation to this committee and board will definitely going forward.
Could you just restate your name and on the?
Yes. I'm sorry. I'm Duke Richardson. I'm the project liaison for Return to Freedom Wild Horse Sanctuary, a nonprofit on Halama Road. I am the specific project liaison for the Babcock project. This is a grant money that we have set aside specifically for Mr. Babcock's land in a regenerative viticulture and regenerative farming nature. Let me back up. Our organization has managed about 2,000 wild horses, wild Mustangs and burros since 1998. And our farm has been there, the ranch has been there since that time. Currently, we manage about 500 horses through the BLM that come off of the herd management areas, mostly in the Western United States. We have 3 other sanctuary properties, including a 2,000-acre property in San Luis Obispo. I've recently been connected. I've been connected since the beginning of the organization, but recently back connected with my wife onto the property. And in December of 23, there was a herd of wild Mustangs rescued out of Alpine, Arizona, that through several different organizations found their way with our president, Netta DeMaio's help, and 3 other nonprofit organizations. We received 40 of them onto our property on Halama Road in May of 24. We started searching because our property is currently is maxed out with the amount of wild Mustangs that we do manage in burros. So I started searching for properties that we could release these horses to live in their natural way that would be suitable. I approached the Babcocks, who generously found an interest in that their 80 acres of their once vineyard that they were producing from had been fallow due to Pierce's disease and some other issues, and that Brian was very much into the land conservation and stewardship and very open to a regenerative farming and regenerative viticultural approach. Our project manager that's been leading this in San Luis Obispo has had some exemplary results in just 2 growing seasons using wild mustangs, Bransmara cattle, and some other, and burros and some other animals in helping heal the soil or have the soil, the grasses, retain more water retention, sequester more carbon, and we've even brought back some riparian areas and perennial ponds. This model is working very well on that property. And when we took it to the Babcocks, not only did they have their current 110 acres that is designated in the Williamson Act and the winery, but an additional 40 acres that Mr. Babcock has also common ownership in, which is contiguous, and they have accepted and signed a contract with Return to Freedom for the next 10 years to monitor, to bring these horses on, 40 Mustangs. There's 31 on today. Brian, there'll be 9 more on this afternoon if we can get this done and get it out there. And we will release them about 6 o'clock. The idea is that they're going to go from, they are in the top 40 now. They've been on there for 30 days. We have the grazing tracks set up, and we are working with several scientists and the USDA, the one that Ms. Babcock was talking about up in Parlor, has taken soil samples already to monitor what the soil change might be and how it'll heal or help his affliction of the Pierce's disease. Also, that the horses will continually move around his vineyard in different areas out of using sacrifice land on and off different parcels, as we've done up in our other areas to improve soil health. The whole idea of this is that the whole property will become a regenerative model, and we have been approached and gladly accepted an opportunity with the Regenerative Viticulture Foundation on May 14th. We'll be hosting some of the top people that are doing this in the world through the Regenerative Viticulture Foundation. We've been to one field day, and they've approached us to sponsor the next one, and Brian has accepted. The idea here would be to take the 110-acre parcel, or a proposed idea that we will get together and present back to you, back to the board, which I think you would like, and add to it the 40 acres that are adjacent up above, that Mr. Babcock is the common owner, and use that whole 140 acres and 110 in the Williamson Act. Or if the requirements require, there's 12 acres of winery to be taken out of the Williamson Act. And so that 138, where we would be adding more acreage into conversation, and then taking that 12 acres out. And I understand that we could do that as long as we're adding on to more land into the conversation without canceling the current contract. And if that is something that we would like to consider, and I think Brian would like to consider, we would gladly come back to this board and present the entire plan in a more organized fashion when we're not in the middle of what we're in the middle of right now. But we've been working on this for about 1.5 years. It has been received very well, and just initially, the interest that we've received all goes towards conservation.
Hi, thank you very much for coming today, and I'm sorry to hear about your loss and what's happening in your property. My name's Stephanie, and I'm with the Agricultural Commissioner's Office. And I just wanted to get some clarification when you're talking about you're working with the Agriculture Department. So I heard you're working with the USDA.
Yes, the NCRS office up in Santa Maria with
NRCS.
NRCS, sorry, with Emma Chow.
Uh-huh.
And we also have been approved and accepted a pollinator habitat grant with Community Environmental Council here with Camilla. And I think Bree has gone on to somewhere else, but Camilla is on that. And we have a finalized plan for, we missed this growing season, but for a $75,000 habitat grant to plant pollinator habitat grant starting in the fall.
Okay,
That'll be seeded by the end of December. They also are in the works with a well grant that is a specific dedicated well for the livestock. That would be a part separate from his current well, which is for the vineyard. So that the livestock would have access to water on their own without interfering with his current operation using the vineyard. We are in the early stages of that. In fact, we've got the most current design from Emma Chow's office at the USDA was yesterday, so I haven't even reviewed it yet.
thank you. And one other question, have you had any involvement with the California Department of Food and Agriculture?
The CEC is funded through the Kachuma Resources, so that's through CDFA. The Pollinator Habitat Grant, and then that is also this same. So it's federal funds that are going through CDFA
Okay,
out of the Santa Maria office. So it's Kachuma Resources, but it's actually
that's a part of the whole
yes, we're using
NRCS system,
the CSP.
SDA.
Right. So they fund it out of
I see.
CDFA. I mean,
Okay,
it's approved out of USDA, but it's funded out of CDFA
okay.
and Kachuma
So
Resources.
aside from the grants and for backing up a little bit, you talked about the presence of Pierce's disease there, and that's
Yes.
very serious disease.
Yes.
In fact, there's quite a bit of money spent at state level trying to combat the control of the vector. So
Yes.
yeah,
We have an application open. We'll find out what our status is on that. But the application has been approved for a grant to combat Pierce's disease, glassy wing sharp out of the PD glassy wing sharpshooter funding there with a team, including Mr. Babcock, that we will find out. The total grant is about 383,000 that we've applied for. They're reviewing it, and we'll sometime in the next April or May, we'll get
okay.
us more specifics on.
Was there any samples taken on the property,
Yes.
and was those submitted to a state lab, or did anyone in
are-
your office go out and sample the property when it was determined it had Pierce's disease? That's what I was trying to find out.
We took the samples in September 15th, before the horses went on. The horses didn't go on until January. And those from the research scientist Christopher Wallace out of the USDA. I can get you again more specific contact information. And his department head up there at the Parlor office, Rodrigo, and they are on the cutting edge they've already been funded using the mycelium, specifically the trichoderma mycelium, that will colonize the rootstocks and help the trunk be healthier, maybe not just, or cure, I mean, you can't cure Pierce's disease, but maybe not be as susceptible to the winged vectors that make. The healthier a vine is, the more susceptible it is going to be to vectors or disease.
Okay,
What we're trying to do with the soil, we've got some really revolutionary ideas about how to heal the soil and grow the roots on there, which will affect, the theory is, will produce healthier vines, which be more resistant, less susceptible.
yes. So it sounds like you're in the process now of collecting, resources through grants. You're working with the USDA, the federal government.
We have soil samples in.
And then there's some grants also you're working with as far as USDA, also with NRCS. And I also heard, was there any involvement with UC Cooperative Extension?
Have not looked there
Have
yet.
not, okay. And I was curious if, Royce, if you were aware of, or have anything to add? There was some mention about San Luis Obispo County.
Yeah.
Royce is our farm advisor, rangeland advisor at UC Cooperative Extension for the committee.
So I haven't had any contact with this group in San Luis County or in Santa Barbara County either. I think what he's talking about is very interesting. One of the things that I would really like more information about and understanding, you talk about improving soil health, capturing soil carbon and those kinds of things. You've been on there 1.5 years now. Our soil scientists at UC Davis suggest it takes 10 years to really determine if soil carbon has been added or not, due to the ups and downs of the weather itself. And we have seen those ups and downs in the last decade or two, severe drought to almost our wettest winter on record. The last 3 or 4 winters have been really quite wet, and so things are been improving, mostly due to the weather, as I understand it. So figuring out are the grazing and the horses improving that soil or not, I think would be very interesting to see those results, but it would be, I think, a difficult thing to do, to separate out what's actually happening all around versus what the horses are doing. Now, I'm not against horses, and I like grazing. I think that's all a good thing. I just think it'd be very hard to come to that conclusion. So that's my 2-cent input.
Thank you, and may I respond?
Yes.
So the Babcocks have generously agreed and signed a 10-year contract with Return to Freedom for the horses, and our first soil samples were in September. The horses did not go on until January 27th, so they're just coming off of the first grazing pasture, which will be now saved and sacrificed to go into the second one this afternoon. So they've only been on there 1 month. Over the 10 years, we are going to be able to track the soil health of all of that, Mr. Royce, exactly what you said, but including tracking it from satellite using some technology that'll track the evapotranspiration, so we can really see under the soil to find out what it's doing. It is going to be a 10-year, 3 to 10-year process. In San Luis Obispo, we've been able to track it visually just by the height of the grasses on the tracks that are used in this same regenerative grazing style. A lot of the people internationally that are involved in regenerative viticulture and farming have seen some incredible results around the world, and we are following kind of their footsteps in some of these unique locations, which we believe is similar to where the Babcock's property is. So it is a 10-year study. We will track it and monitor it every year, or throughout that whole process. And I think we're going to see some incredible results from this.
Appreciate that, and thank you for sharing. I will bring it back to the committee, I think, but in between the now and the 10 years, how do we deal with what's going on with the right here at this time with a contract through the Williamson Act?
Yeah, I think I have a lot of questions in a lot of different aspects, but so the mycelium that you were talking about, does the soil get inoculated with that, or how does that get developed in the soil?
Well, one of the reasons for taking the soil samples is that they don't do a lot of field testing, and they did come out in September, and we did a liquid nitrogen extraction on those soil samples, and there was trichoderma in it, which is, you look at Christopher Wallace's latest research, that trichoderma, that mycelium was in Mr. Babcock's soil, and that's how it. The objective. Yeah, I don't know the scientific part of it, but yes.
With regenerative agriculture techniques to improve the health of the soil, that will improve the extent of the mycelium through the soil profile.
It's just there because it's there. Different parcels may or may not have it, but
I think some of these things are introduced by the livestock too.
And they will be, and
their biology.
addition to that, and I'm sorry if I'm talking a lot, but we have recently been engaged with the Wallace Hannenberg Foundation or the Wallace Hannenberg Wildlife Crossing about how they were able to bring in more wildlife onto that property. I don't know if you're familiar with that down in Agora Hills. My wife and I just recently attended a luncheon, and they invited us to see that. So the biodiversity of bringing wildlife into the property and changing the DNA is also one of the things that we're looking at by the wildlife, change the DNA in the soil. If you research that at all, there are, the Los Padres National Forest and the Santa Monica Mountain Conservation has been split by that 101 freeway, and the two sides have not been able to, there's not enough biodiversity. They're even seeing cougars with crooked tails, that kind of a thing. By bringing more wildlife onto the property, we hope to bring in more biodiversity and really change that DNA in the soil.
I think it answered your question too. It remains to be seen if these mycelial fungal populations, if they're things that will just be introduced naturally because they are already there. I mean, they're molds, or if there's something that we can inoculate and introduce. I'm currently working with a scientist on the East Coast who is, of all things, she's working on Pierce's disease, which they're now having a problem with in olive trees in Puglia, Italy. And she has developed, I can get you her contact information if you guys would like to check her out. She has developed a product which is very proprietary. I had to sign an NDA, and she won't tell me the formula, but I have a feeling it's probably full of fungi and mycelium and all these different things. She calls it a probiotic. And I've actually put some, she gave me some product, just a trial in my laboratory where, I have plenty of vines that are under the pressure of Pierce's disease. And we did effectively inoculate the soil on various rows, and we have some controls set up. And then where I'm doing soil sample, I did one in January, scheduled now to do one. Here we are 3-4 months later. And then we're going to do another one 6 months, and then probably another one in a year. But what I'm really looking for is just if those vines respond, just visual. Wow, if they take off, that's gonna tell us something. So I don't know if Dr. Paula Ward is her name. I don't know if she'll tell you the formula for product, but my guess is it's full of fungus.
Mr. Babcock, so just going back to your question. So in addition to the regenerative agriculture, you were mentioning, can't find it in my notes, but in terms of elevating the vines from traditional plantings to help improve or to reduce susceptibility to a variety of things. I can't visualize how does that happen? How do you elevate the vines? You just let them grow to and prune them to like a trellis type of situation? Or?
So we have some we've developed some novel trellising systems called integrated nature. Basically just run a longer trunk to a higher level. And then at pruning, my fruiting canes, they float in space on pedestals. It's called pedestrian cane suspension. I think the best way to understand it, I would invite all you guys. I think what we're doing is very exciting. If any of you would like to come see it anytime, I can show you the pedestals and everything else. But essentially, we've engineered a way to capture fruiting canes suspended loosely in space. And then really, the integrated nature really taps. It starts with understanding the relationship between the nature of the plant, in this case, and I like the genus because the genus always really controls morphology. Vitis vinifera, Vitis, the nature of Vitis, how it grows as a species, what its tendencies are, how long the internodes are, what do the leaves look like, and how do all those factors of that plant respond with the forces that are in play, namely gravity, wind, and sun. And so those are the questions that I will, from here on out, always ask myself before I ever install another vineyard. I want to work with nature. I want to work with a more holistic approach. One of the reasons I think the industry is having so much trouble with current system like vertical shoot positioning, if this is a cross section of a row of my vines, this is what we're inviting Vitis to do. And we want that launch. What does the status quo do? They take this and they go like this, and they create their own mildew pressure right there. Right. So once I moved up, on day one, I was just trying to address what I considered to be at the time farming costs that were out of control. I've got to find a way to work with gravity. Because this war against gravity every year it's going to put me out of business, right? So that's kind of how it started. Once I got up here and I started to just discover all these things serendipitously, like the ergonomic aspect of it. If we do handwork, if we do pull leaves, shoot them, it's all right here. It's not. And if I do have a crew out there doing leaf pulling, I'll go out and I'll go, how do you like this system? And they're like, yeah, this is great. It's all right. It's all right here. We get a little frost protection up there. Essentially, the system is really helping me to mitigate my exposure to fossil fuels, burning fossil fuels, and labor. It requires less labor because we're working with gravity, we're working with the wind if the row direction is correct. And if the wind in our blessed position of having the wind run on the same line, opposed, but the same line as the arc of the sun, it really sets up some interesting advantages. Let the vine grow naturally. Let it present you into a bigger fruiting zone, individual cluster architecture. We even have a term, individual vine architecture. Like if we need just that, we've got an open spot on that side of the vine. Okay, well, let's just take this shoot from this side and let's just put it over there. Oh, there we go. Right? We don't hedge. We don't put fuel in the tractor and drive the tractor to hedge. We don't need to, and we don't want to disconnect the communication system of the vine is in the shoot tips. And the growers that they're just constantly shaving everything back. I think it just kind of confuses the vine. We don't really have weeds anymore. We just have cover because our crop is up here. So I'm just not as concerned if it's something that we would not otherwise want in the field. I'm not concerned about it because it's down there, crops up here, and it's a completely no-till strategy, which is very much a part of regenerative, and it just makes it easier to get in the field and work on the carpet, to plant the right species in the carpet to accommodate livestock. I've been studying my system like from the ground up for the last 15 years. It's just been a kind of a long, slow development. And then when I met Duke and Aaron Thane, who is our regenerative supervisor, manager, and our other partner, when I finally was looking at a way from the ground down that might give my vines more resistance to all these diseases, potential is mind-boggling. You mentioned, you asked, are we working with Davis or the University of California? Not so much extension offices, but I went to Davis. I'm in touch with those guys. And just recently, we rescued a clone of Mencia, which FPS unfortunately lost at Davis because all of Russell Ranch collapsed due to red blotch virus. So Davis lost a couple of specific clonal material. In this case, the varieties Mencia, Spanish grape. We were able to go to the Nolan Vineyard where we knew they had planted some earlier, take some cuttings, get them back to Davis so that they would have that clone available for the industry in their holdings. So we do work closely with the University of California, and anytime those guys want to come down and talk to us about what we're doing, that's all a phone call away. So we're really trying this whole approach. We're really trying to take a lead role in holistic farming. You know, you mentioned earlier, like the efforts right now to kill the vector. You know, if we can stop the vector, then we won't have any Pierce's disease. Well, to me, after 20 years of looking at this, the vector's not going away anytime soon. And if we can find a holistic approach, I mean, we can't just keep spraying.
Yeah, it's not a method. I wasn't indicating to get rid of the vector. It's here to stay. We're, a partially infested county,
Yeah.
but
But it's interesting you said that, because that is kind of the mentality
mhm,
of so much of the industry.
yeah.
You know, mildew, kill the mildew, kill the vector.
Mhm.
So,
And yeah, thank you for that kind of context. I think the next questions I have kind of relate to time frame, because time frame is going to affect sort of our view of this. And so one, just in terms of this technique, is there, in my layperson trying to understand it, in order to get to that height, it seems it's going to take longer. So what would be the time frame to establish a vineyard that can get to a fruiting stage with this new elevated technique? How does that compare to a standard new planting of a vineyard in terms of the time frame to get to maturity?
installation is cheaper overall. If nothing else, it's a break even compared to a conventional, you put in vertical sheet position vineyard or the line. In my fruiting zone, there are no wires. We want Vitis to do this, right? As opposed to like a VSP system, put in these big heavy line posts, 3-inch piece of steel this way. If you're going to mechanically harvest, the harvester is going to engage this way. It's hard on the equipment. It's hard on the vines. Once I moved out, I used to have, when I was farming 50 acres, once I moved up, the first night that we had a vineyard block that was ready, and I thought strong enough at this point to mechanically harvest it, we were able to go twice as fast with our harvester and be twice as gentle in harvesting. There's so many fewer wires in my system. The stakes are thin, they're not heavy. So I'm sure the cost to install is, if it's not the same, it's probably a little bit less. But in terms of timing, imagine a grapevine in current system where the grower needs the vine, if it's a new vine and if it's vigorous enough in the first year, if it grows enough in the first year, it usually takes 2 years after planting to go up 3 feet and then make a turn along the wire, which is roughly 3 feet off the ground, to arrive at what will either be future fruiting canes at that level or cordon arm, which is permanent kind of skeleton of the vine. You prune spurs and all your growth starts from there. So it's up 3 feet and then down 3 feet. Instead of making the turn, my system just goes up 6. So there's really no delay in time from planting to production.
And then kind of related to that, is what you're proposing for this vertical elevation, is it scalable? I mean, it's not a boutique kind of thing. Is it scalable to tens of acres?
Not only is it scalable, but I mean, with distance between the vine rows all being equal, it will save growers who adopt it at a static yield. It'll save them at least 30% per acre in their farming costs. And the pedestal, it's pretty simple.
Is there wider spacing that you anticipate if you're having livestock going through these rows?
There is a little bit wider spacing because we want Vitis to do this, right? So we have to spread out just a little bit. But if it was the craze for high density that brought the rows so close together that growers have no choice. They have to go like this. And they have to burn, more trips with the tractor and lifting wires. And it was high density that's gotten our farming costs out of control, quite frankly.
So now back to kind of time frame. You've got a 10-year contract. You're going to have annual data to evaluate. Are there points within that time frame that whatever your metrics that you're trying to determine are success, where you would then have, because I mean, I think what I'm hearing is your intent is at some point, if it's successful, that you want to reestablish the vineyards on the property. Is there points I mean, you have to wait till the 10 years and then evaluate, and whether it's worth the risk and the cost to plant, or is there going to be some test points that say, okay, at year 6 or year 5, we're going to plant 10 acres and see how it's, or is there some time frame that is going to be a decision point? Because even if this didn't have the disease, as you know, as a wine grower in Santa Barbara County in current situation, it's very tenuous in terms of vines being removed. Just the market itself is very risky. And so the cost to reestablish even today would be probably not a business decision that somebody would do. They're going in the inverse. And now adding just, you've already experienced the effects of Pierce's disease on your, and whether or not at some point, I'm sure that weighs into your decision and in a cost perspective of, is it worth that decision? And so I guess I'm trying to get an understanding of the picture of the timing of when you think at least you may have some new plantings, either whether as part of the testing or not, because
it's a great question.
For better or worse, that relates to eligibility with our uniform rules because you have a winery. If you didn't have the winery on the property, you can be, there's more flexibility in terms of what your agriculture is that you're doing. Unfortunately, kind of with our rules that we have in place today, there needs to be some future prospect that the vineyards will be reestablished and not necessarily waiting 10 years to see if that's the case or not.
I think, our ultimate horizon at the moment is like 10 years. I don't know if I can think much more past that, but I do have, let me just show you on the map.
We have the remote mic, Teresa.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, it won't.
While he's looking that up, Mr. Chair,
Have a
can I-
mobile mic.
It's just so for public record and so the public can hear. Yeah. Thank you, Teresa.
Yes.
So,
Or do you want to go to?
sure. So this, go ahead and back out a little bit more. There you go. So this still is my laboratory, and that still is a vineyard. So this will be the first place for us to study, take advantage of the benefits of having a raised platform and an integrated system that will enhance a regenerative farming approach. And we think, we're pretty sure we'll be able to have livestock year round. So we're going to treat this as a pasture zone, grazing zone, right? In a regenerative capacity. The best place, if we start to see,
Would the grape, so I understand, would the grapes stay in there or?
Yeah.
Okay, and they would just be elevated as in they're still planted in the soil, but they're longer canes like you were describing. Okay.
Yeah.
And how many acres is that?
1.5.
Okay.
2.3.
2.33.
And then if we start to see, I think, certainly over the next 5 years, if we get the livestock in there and really dial in a holistic approach, if the vineyard responds, and I'm not looking at vines that need to be replanted every 3 years, then I'll keep going. And the most logical place here would just be right in here, which also used to be a vineyard, and the rows nicely run east and west so that we can integrate the wind and sun vis-a-vis the position of the sun based on the time of the growing season, because it does migrate advantageously if you have an east-west row. So we will continue to set up possibly a couple more pasture zones in here so that when the sheep have grazed this down to the right point, they go to the next vineyard block, and so on. Now, exactly when I'm going to do this, I'm not sure, but certainly I think in the next 5 years, this will be something to look at. And I will say too that this whole approach has kind of opened up a holistic approach. It's really presented an opportunity for the possibility of even other crops. So we're kind of like, we're thinking, well, what could we grow on a hillside with a bunch of burrows? Well, maybe coffee, agave. I'm not interested in agave for spirits. I mean, I'm already into the wine, but I am interested in agave for pulque, truffles, tea, all kinds of things that I think would really respond to a regenerative approach, and then could also offer the same opportunities to to agriculture in general in Santa Barbara County.
So you spoke about those two lower areas as expansion, but in the interim, the rest of the 90 plus acres on the property, are you also doing the regenerative agriculture with the livestock for the rest of the property to build the soil health?
Yes.
Let's use the mobile mic. The hand.
All right. So this area here, he still has, and that's still being pruned. And then there is some rootstock that's still alive back in here too. This Mencia right here,
Few clusters.
okay. And then there is an area back here that does have some rootstock health.
So there are some sections where there's still vines.
Could be back in a couple of seasons if we get the right results.
If we see the response.
He's certain that the Pierces won't do the same thing that it did before, but if the soil health is better, those could be brought back in 2 or 3 seasons.
Just any response would be interesting, because farming the way I was farming, the vineyard was dying. So if we adopt a fully holistic and regenerative approach, and those, all those vines that are kind of one step out of the grave, if they respond, that's going to tell us something.
Thank you for all that information. I think in my mind, I think what the committee's wrestling with is to try and be creative here, but stay within what the uniform rules say. And I think what we are wrestling with, and David was alluding to that and had said that at some point, is we have a winery here. So it's like, the irony is you're tied to grapes because it is a winery, and it's just on top of that, not only are we having difficult industry trends right now, downward trend where people don't want to be putting more grapes in. You have what sounds like a real biological problem out there with Pierce's disease, phylloxera, whatever else is having. Your pest pressure is really high, so to even put grapes there is still really risky. But you as a farmers are risky, used to risk. Sounds like you have your heart in it. Your passion is there. You really want to do it. I think what we're trying to do is find a way to, because the rules aren't really written to allow for kind of research based sort of phase, which is where you are right now, and trying to do your regenerative work. You're getting grants, you're experimenting, trying to find out what works. What we're trying to do is find something that would fit into that box with the uniform rules. You can report, and there is allowances in the uniform rules for fallow periods and things like that, changes of crop. I mean, we understand that, but this seems a little different than that. So we're just trying to find a way. I mean, that's where my head's at, to be able to have something that you can report and the annual report saying you've got some production level, and maybe it isn't the minimum required amount right now, but you're getting in that direction. I'm more comfortable with that if you're moving in that direction. You have something. I don't know if those crops, the grapes that are planted now would go to market, or if is that something you would even sell, or they're just there for research, but
Well,
experimentation. But I think that's what the committee's looking for. And when you talk about livestock on the property, we could talk about that, but usually we were thinking about cattle, right? I don't know, would the wild horses be, yeah, because that's not something, the whole idea is that you're selling the cattle, so, and that's your agricultural, commercial operation there. So that's kind of what we're trying to close the gap on. So I don't know if any other thoughts from committee members.
So I'm wondering, are you currently using the winery? Are you still producing wine, but maybe from grapes? From
yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
That was one of
Yeah, that,
one of the things I was thinking about was, this is a non-prime property, but the winery is what's
right.
kind of questions. There was mention about joining the 40-acre parcel to the north of this parcel, maybe getting a replacement contract to include that parcel, but
Yeah, is that what you were alluding to?
That's what I was alluding to, is taking out the 12 acres, because the winery itself is a 12-acre parcel, and a little bit on there. If you took that out and added the 40, which is adjacent, that he's on the ownership with, what would be, I mean, could pay conventional ag taxes on the winery and introduce the whole rest of the 138 acres as into the Williamson Act without the cancellation fee. So we're adding.
Now we're
And
looking
can't-
at a
Yeah, can't
specific-
cancel that.
All of the rules are based on legal parcels. So this is 100+ acre, one parcel. So you can't carve out the winery out of that.
So the answer that, I mean, I'm not,
Yeah.
the reason I brought that up is the answer that I got from AI. Is it is possible to remove a 12-acre portion of a 110-acre parcel from a Williamson Act contract, but it requires a partial cancellation or non-renewal process approved by the local board of supervisors or city, which is you. The approval would be without would be without paying the substantial cancellation fee of 12.5% of the unrestricted current fair market. And the requirements are that we have to prove that removal will not result in a leapfrog development or adversely affect nearby agricultural land. That's where I got that.
So our uniform rules, they do allow partial
That's what,
cancellation, but it's only of legal parcels. And so either if you had another legal parcel and you did a lot line adjustment or something, but you could only non-renew whole legal parcels, not just portions of an existing parcel. And even in that, I don't think it would, it wouldn't meet the, cancellation is a very rare situation of circumstances, and the board would need to make findings of that. And I don't think that solves your problem. And I don't think you could make the findings, but I don't think we're there yet. I don't think that, you can continue the conversation, but I don't know that that's the pathway that we're at right now.
then help us. I mean, I'm looking at this as a see-through. We're adding more acreage, or we're utilizing more acreage that he's involved in ownership for conservation purposes.
And those are all, those are all laudable things, but in terms of, just the current relationship on the ag preserve contract, when you do have a winery, that's the sticking point, is that it's both the 51% that we mentioned based on your case production, and that can come 51% from this contract or other lands that you may have. And then you also have to have 20% on this same parcel of the case production. so those are the challenge, and I think it's based on hopefully the success of your plan, and I guess I'm more encouraged that there's still rootstock out there, that may help to show that if there is success and they are able to respond, that then versus a whole cost and risk of reestablishing new vines and the time frame to do that. I guess going back to what Sergio asked about, and I know that Mr. Babcock, you had mentioned that you're buying grapes, which and that's another, with the current situation that's out there, at least that provides a benefit to some of the other vineyard growers in the county. There's a source to purchase those grapes.
Right.
But in terms of recent over the last 3 to 5 years, what have been your kind of average case production at the winery?
5,000 cases.
5,000
They're
cases.
small.
Okay. And then are most of those grapes from Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo counties?
90+% Santa Barbara County.
Santa Barbara County. Okay. And yeah, I mean, obviously, we want to continue to support that.
Yeah, from growers who desperately need a
Right,
home
and,
for
you know,
grapes,
That's the sort of the rub. I
especially
mean,
in the current state of the industry.
And as Stephanie was saying, we're trying to find a pathway. And I mean, I know that, we have in the past built upon the allowances to identify fallow periods, and we even on one of the properties, wineries, we expressly stated that we're supporting an extended fallow period. We didn't say how long that would be. I think that's kind of where we're at right now. We want to at least characterize this as an extended fallow period, maybe in the 5-year initial range that we're kind of looking at. But I would hope to have maybe annual reports so that we can set a regular time frame where you can report on the progress, and then we can continue to evaluate that. I don't know if the committee, how they view on that perspective.
So the assessor's office sends the yearly questionnaire, and you've been very good at responding. We haven't received this year's, which if you need a blank questionnaire, I can mail it again. I can provide. I don't know. I'm not sure that
I think, Mr. Babcock, you didn't know what to report on. I mean, what?
Right.
That was one of your questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
looking for your guidance.
So maybe Sergio, you could hit system, or we don't know what we would. I mean, what if they just say there's zero? I mean, because they're getting assessed on what they say, right?
So at this point, we've changed the designation from vineyard to non-vineyard. And the difference is that with the vineyard questionnaire, we usually provide you with what we show on record that's been, that's there, that is planted on the property. Now your questionnaire doesn't have that. So I guess, but you can still provide information on whatever's planted. And I can share that with the committee when I get the information, but
There still is a vineyard. There's infrastructure, and there are vines in various blocks. They're just not producing very much at the moment.
so I'll need,
Even if I were to take out a block, if everything was healthy, and I were to say graft to a different variety, it would take 3 to 4 years before I'd even be back into production on that block.
so I'm not sure. Typically, the way the assessor assesses the property that is used for vineyard is based on their income and expenses and production. You have none of that. So we have to move to a different method of reassessing your property on a yearly basis because you're under ag reserve. So I don't know. I've never experienced situation, so.
Are there any cover crops or anything you're putting out there? What is that? What can you talk a little bit about that? Like just to keep the soil in, and I mean, what's happening on that end?
Yes, and we have a completely itemized list of the cover crops that we're using on the $75,000 grant through CEC.
Okay.
My project manager is on his property trying to get these last horses in and off grazing them today, so he can talk more about that as to the specific crops, where they're planted. And if I can't get online right now, we also have a diagram.
Are you selling those cover crops, or is it just
So
to
it's just
add
to lay the
value to the soil?
biocarpet, right, with using the livestock to lay the biocarpet in
Mm-hmm.
soil in that first
Would it help?
75,000, I think, yeah, dollars worth of cover crops in specific areas with specific landscape.
Okay.
I can go into more detail.
Yeah.
on that in the future, very shortly.
Maybe going back to,
And we thought we'd be getting together for 3 days. Their house just burned
Yeah.
on Saturday,
Mm,
and we just
understandably.
together. He just came up from Los Angeles. He had looters at his
Oh,
house
no.
yesterday afternoon and went down there. So we just met to go over all this, as you saw in the hallway here.
We appreciate your time.
Thought we'd have 3 or 4 days to present with a lot more information.
I have a question for maybe Alex. Is there a way that you can tell if there's more than one legal lot for this parcel?
Yeah, I think there is, it is a one legal lot. There is a certificate of compliance issued in 70s. But I had another question. The parcel to the north, 40 acre, what is the current agriculture there? Is there any commercial agriculture there?
There is now, it's grazeland.
Okay. And I don't know, Sergio, if that could be helpful considering contract replacement and including that 40 acres into this contract for your purposes.
Yeah, so in terms of size, it doesn't qualify by itself, this 40 acre, because if it's only grazing, then it has to be a prime contract. It has to be combined, added to this current one, but then we still have the issue of
But we would have
winery.
50 acres under the contract.
I know, but that.
But if
But
you,
it gets you a non-prime contract with some cattle on it, and that it isn't winery, I
The
understand,
winery is
but
the issue,
it-
yeah.
yeah, I know.
at least you've got agriculture on the property.
Yeah, that would be one qualifier
Yeah,
with the grazing. And
Yes.
then I did like Mr. Chair's idea. I was thinking about the same thing, annually reporting if it is not a burden to see the progress from the committee's perspective. And I mean, I definitely would support that.
that property to the north, that's the 40 acre property, is it held in same ownership?
No, it's a partnership with my sister.
Oh, I see, okay.
For that one.
And if I could ask a question, the
Yeah,
grazing there.
Sorry, Royce, could you speak up a little bit? It's a little hard to hear.
Oh, sorry. The grazing there, is that wild horses or is it cattle?
It could be either. Currently, it's horses.
And I'll just bring this back to the uniform rules. It doesn't specify what kind of livestock, but it does specify it has to be commercial.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you're able to sell a wild horse or not, but that's what it would require.
Well, the idea is the horses are going to do most of the front end work, and then we'll bring in the smaller animals, sheep, possibly pigs. On our San Luis Obispo property, we do have Bransmar cattle, and those livestock eventually would be harvested.
Correct.
Oh, go ahead, Sergio.
So as far as the assessment, it, it can remain as follow on our side to, do our job, on the assessor side. But I don't know if you guys are comfortable with, um, keeping the property follow for these many years.
I guess I'm trying to equate it to something where, you know, someone's reestablishing either like in Carpenter Rear, we saw when the fire came through, the Thomas Fire and a lot of the avocados, there was a delay and, at least uh, we would look at our typical, is there a business plan? Do they have a purchase order for the trees to reestablish it? Is there a commitment to reestablish it? Obviously, what, they've provided, there's a strong commitment to at least, it's a broader, testing with, hopeful expectation that the success will result in reestablishment. So I think there's parts of those things, the assurances and, in terms of the time frame, that's what I'm saying, even if it was starting from scratch and they didn't have to deal with, maybe they just wanted to do a new varietal or something and they had to get purchase vines and then reestablish them over time frame. I think we would be looking at that 3 to 5 year period normally anyhow.
We have filed an application and we've had one person with the FSA out. If we can identify the vines with Pierce's disease, we would be eligible for the tree assistance program. They would subsidize our replanting of the vineyard. Brian's already met and we've looked at it, so we're trying to get pictures so that we could substantiate the Pierce's disease. Then we will be eligible for that, and that would replant a lot of the bottom next to his test lab or a lot of that vineyard also, should he choose to do that.
Right.
So we have help in that.
And then just, the height of your vineyard, how many acres did you have planted and what was the height of your case production? Because I know looking at your permit, it looked like it was permitted for like 25,000 cases or something in that
Yes.
range.
At one point, I was making about 25,000 cases, growing approximately 60 to 70% of the fruit for those cases. I was farming roughly 60 acres on our parcel, and at the peak, I was also in a lease arrangement on another property up in, not Sabata Canyon, Gypsy Canyon to the west of me. I was farming 20 acres over there. I didn't own the property, but I was farming it.
And this is the only ag preserve contract property that you have in Santa Barbara County?
I'm sorry?
Is this the only ag preserve contract property that you have in Santa Barbara County? Okay. And maybe a hypothetical also, I mean, aside just from the removal of your vines and dealing with the Pierce's disease, are the economic trends also influencing, or would they have influenced your lower case production from the height of what you were producing?
Yes.
Because I think that will also at some point in the calculus, if you said, let's use your 5,000 cases, for our purposes at Uniform Rules and in planning development, we typically look at a more generous, because I don't know many varietals producing 300 cases an acre. But we use that as a standard, so 5,000 cases, you would need about 16 acres planted to produce. And then
Exactly.
1% of that, you're in the, 8 or 9 acres. So that might, the new economic case production may be the metric that we're using to say, how much do we think we need to shoot for to reestablish compliance? So it wouldn't be the full, 25,000 cases, because that's probably not an economic reality of the current situation.
No.
I think just so you have that, and probably something that we would be looking at is, if it's a 5 to 10,000 cases, it may be, a 9 to 18 acre, production area or something like that.
less than 11,
Exactly. Yeah, we've kind of been thinking the same thing.
better quality and higher price.
would
And
take.
then maybe one last question from myself is that I'm sure have a variety of different testing and when the data is available and the time of the year. Is this a good time of the year annual to come back and report on the status? Is there a better time of the
so.
year?
Yeah.
Maybe if we kind
We
of.
would love to come back. I mean, I think what we're doing is so exciting that, this could have an impact on agriculture in general.
Right.
The development of these holistic approaches. And we would love to tell you about it every year.
Maybe could be something that, we would work in our motion to track.
Definitely on board with that. I know that you guys have experienced a personal crisis, so I want to be respectful of that. I would like to see them come back with something like more of a written plan before we make a motion to, yeah. Like
So
entity,
like
maybe,
May or something, would that
yeah,
be good?
May, that has like
Or June?
mapped areas where maybe those grapes.
June would that be better?
It's going to be great.
Can be better. Okay, so why don't we, if that works for you.
Yeah, that's fine. And something that would show on a map, like where the, what you're planning to do, just visually and graphically on a map of the regenerative areas, the areas where the grapes are currently planted, where the rootstocks are, maybe coming back. So that would be helpful.
Fantastic.
And I have one more question too. I know surrounding your property, there's other vineyards,
Yes.
Melville, and I don't know, are they also facing the same
Yes.
issue?
I'll be out visiting you more, I'm sure.
The one directly east.
That's not on the other side of the picture. I'm thinking through the lens of our department and just the health of the grape industry as a whole and the concern about the disease. So I'll be visiting you.
Yeah, I think Chad Melville, I wouldn't be surprised if he's replanted at some point at least half of his blocks. He also farms, believe he's got a vineyard across the street, across on the other side of Highway 246. But there's so many you can look at a vineyard that's being sort of replanted within. You're trying to pull out the dead vine, put in a new vine because they put a grow tube around the vine. So, you can see and I don't know if each grow tube is from a vine that died from Pierce's disease, but when 50% of the field has grow tubes in it, that is a tall tale sign. So a question for a guy like Chad, it's going to be the same as me, is, how long can I continue to proceed thinking I need to replant a vine every 10 years, which is just not sustainable.
Mm.
I think, in terms of other diseases, like they don't have as much Pierce's disease over in San Ynez, Happy Canyon, a little warmer climate over there, and probably due to colder, continuous lower temperature, freezing or sub-freezing temperatures for more nights consecutively in the winter tends to slow down the Pierce's disease bacteria. But then they've got a whole slew of other issues over there. They've got Eutypa, which is a fungal disease that they're wrestling with. They seem to have more virus over there than red blotch, and there's a whole series of viral complications. And so this is really why, we're excited about trying to adopt a system that will just give the vines more resistance in general. I mean, what if you bring back life to your soil, and what if all of a sudden your vines are resistant to the Eutypa? And that's really the spirit of our project at this point. That it's almost beyond my property.
Going back just one question. So running livestock through the vineyard area, aren't they going to be chewing on things?
Interestingly, that's a great question. We think if we do it right and we figure out sort of the starting point, the height, we do have flexibility in designing that, that by the time the vines are going to, everything comes out like this on day one, little shootlets, everything's kind of straight up. And then as the shoots get longer, gravity, wind starts to take over, things start to unfold, right? To the point where we're like this by the end of May, going into June,
July. Okay, now the shoot tips are down closer to the sheep, and the sheep just basically do some trimming. We've actually, because my vineyard's so small and experimental, it's true laboratory. We have some resident deer right here, here, and they will migrate down because they're free to do so to here. I do not have a deer fence around here. So we're kind of worried about, oh my God, what are we going to do with the deer? Well, what we discovered is that the deer, they do not want to feed up here. So at least in the starting point of the season, they're not interested in that. Now, typically, you know, if you have a trunk that's say this tall, you will have sort of volunteer sprouts that want to come out of the trunk every year. Call them water sprouts. We affectionately call them suckers. And typically, I used to have to go through all my vineyard once, maybe even twice a year to knock off the suckers. Now we let the deer do it. We actually got to the point where, you know, we wanted them to stay concerned with, you know, from here down. So we started to leave a couple spurs on the middle of the trunk to provide shoots for the deer, so that they would kind of, oh, that's tasty. And then maybe they would go to the next sucker, take it off, go to the next sucker, take it off. So, I mean, this is kind of crazy. Okay, the vines are going to get there, and then the sheep are going to be trimming. And it's like, we are starting to really discover the potential of a holistic system.
Thank you. Any more questions of our committee members or comments? Royce, any other additional comments or thoughts?
I don't have any other right now. Thank
Okay.
you.
I had one more. So when we, it sounded like it's possible for the next meeting, which is April 9th. Was that a possibility? Or are you thinking May? Or did you say June? I'm sorry. Okay, June. Okay. I think that sounded kind of soon. And what I was thinking was like to make a motion that would have requesting like a business plan, something in writing showing what's your plan to get the property back under production, and some kind of site plan or map to indicate areas where it's maybe highest probability, or at least where the rootstocks are, existing rootstocks and planted grapes. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the business plan I guess this is more of describing what your objectives are.
Yeah.
Adding some timeframes, adding management techniques and objectives, all of those type of things, just describing, and then maybe tying it to a map will be helpful.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I mean, Mr. Babcock, you have my email, so you could probably coordinate and get that material to me. We'll send you, you know, probably prior to the meeting, just the agenda and the notice, and maybe after Mr. Richard Richards, yeah, you can give us your contact after the meeting as well, just so we have that as
Yeah.
additional. Did you have the date for our June?
Yeah, so the June meeting would be June 11th. It's a Thursday, about the same time, 9 o'clock. You'd be on that agenda somewhere, but we'd ask for the information maybe by May 28th, which is about 2 weeks prior to the meeting.
You'll do that in a request. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
requirements that you'll need
Yeah.
submitted by May 28th.
Okay.
It sounds like a motion to continue this to our June 11th meeting, to provide time for the owners to provide the business plan and the other identified information to us for our June meeting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very good.
Second.
And
Oh,
I'll mail you if you need it. If you need a new blank questionnaire, I can email it. If you provide me your.
Motion on the floor. Did anyone second it?
Second.
Okay.
Oh, any,
And then I also wanted to make a comment that we do not have any public comment,
Thank you.
okay?
Thank
And then we'll go to the roll call. So Sergio Ricardo.
Aye.
Stephanie Stark,
Aye.
David Lackey.
Aye.
Alex.
Aye.
And then Royce Larson.
Aye.
And the vote carries 5-0.
okay, great. And we really appreciate all the information and time. And we look forward to continue the conversation in June.
We will look forward to it.
Thank you. All right, so that concludes our continued items. Are there any reports of committee members?
There was no ag
Recorded?
preserved recorded documents this month,
Okay.
in February.
How has any uptick notice of our response rate for the questionnaires, or hard to tell?
Hard to tell at the moment. I haven't checked. I haven't even checked to see how many, but they're trickling in.
I had another thought on that. It's a possible. You could also in the future, I'm just thinking out loud, sounds so old school, but provide some sort of a flyer. Our department, a lot of these people come in every year for an annual permit. And if you had some kind of flyer or something on your letterhead, simple, just reminder, that you're going to be getting this notice. If you have land under contract, we could identify maybe ahead of time if those properties are under contract, but
Very good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a flyer, but I'm sure we can create one.
yeah.
Good
Mhm.
idea.
And we also
Coupon
go,
or something?
yeah, you could do that at coupon. You could also do something similar at AAC meetings. It just seems like those sometimes go over pretty well, those types of things. Like not just email, but actually relying on like a piece of paper with some information.
Yeah, that would be good, because I mean, I verbally provided requests at the last two AAC meetings, and they were responsive. But if we had a flyer or something they could have and send out to their commodity groups, that would be good too.
I don't know why we didn't think about this before. It's a good idea.
Alex? Oh, Royce, any updates or?
I do not.
Okay.
None?
No, nothing of note. So with that, we will conclude today's meeting and ending at 10:43. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Royce.
Royce,
Bye, everyone.
bye.